so that you never miss an episode of Hannity or The Five, and tune in to us every day at 5 p.m. And you can follow me on Twitter at Kim Guilfoyle. The Laura Ingraham is live now from Washington, D.C. Laura?
Hey, Kimberly, Merry Christmas. I don't get to talk to you. Great job this year, as always.
All right, God bless. Thank you so much.
You take care. And welcome to the Ingraham Angle from Washington. The president is poised to sign his historic tax cuts into law tomorrow. We'll tell you how he's reshaped the GOP straight ahead in the Angle. Plus, we'll expose the strategy behind those frenzied Democratic warnings that the president shouldn't fire Special Prosecutor Mueller. And the Justice Department is asking the FBI some very tough questions about their investigation of that shady Uranium One deal involving the Clintons. And at the UN, the world condemning the United States for moving its own Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. But the president is taking names, a lot of people on that naughty list. So what's his next move? And did Hollywood really just make a major film about the ultimate Kennedy scandal? We'll tell you which one. But first, Trump, the great GOP unifier, that's the focus of tonight's Angle. Do you remember those headlines about how Trump was going to irreversibly divide and destroy the GOP? Oh, there they are. Well, it turns out that the president may well be on his way to healing those divisions. Well, sure, there are still some policy disagreements. But on the big issues, the unity of spirit and purpose is kind of remarkable, and it needs to be acknowledged. You think about where the GOP was in, let's say, 2008 or 2012. Early 2016. And now think about where it is today. Once upon a time, the Republican leadership had little regard and minimal respect for the real estate mogul who crashed their party. Just remember the kinds of things the GOP leadership had said about Trump.
Our new president had, of course, not been in this line of work before, and I think had excessive expectations about how quickly things happen in the democratic process.
Claiming a person can't do the job because of their race is sort of like the textbook definition of a racist comment. I think that should be absolutely disavowed. It's absolutely unacceptable.
You would think he would aspire to be the president of the United States and act like a president of the United States, but that's just not going to be the case, apparently.
So the narrative from the GOP establishment was that Donald Trump was a divisive figure who wasn't engaged in policy. He didn't understand the ways of Washington. Oh, really? I was told by multiple congressional sources that the president worked the phones tirelessly to get this tax bill done for the American people. He has been intimately involved in remaking trade policy to benefit the American worker as well. And, of course, his efforts to revive the economy seem to be paying off. Home sales hit their highest level in 10 years. The stock market breaking all kinds of records. And, of course, he delivered that tax break. Everybody loves a winner. And now the president has turned some of his fiercest critics into allies. Listen to him now.
A year of extraordinary accomplishment for the Trump administration.
Something this big, something this generational, something this profound could not have been done without exquisite presidential leadership.
I've never, ever in my life used the word fake news until today. I actually understand what it is the president has been dealing with.
Not only is that a stunning reversal of their view of the president's style, but he's converted them, or at least cowed them, on a number of key issues. So, for instance, when's the last time a prominent Republican really complained about Trump's efforts to renegotiate NAFTA or challenge China? And in case you didn't notice, Mitch McConnell now sounds like Jeff Sessions on immigration. Defying expectations again, the president has pulled his party toward the conservative populist movement that swept him into office. His detractors are now realizing that the Trump way is the only way forward. It's finally dawned on them. There's simply no constituency for the GOP of open borders, endless wars, and those lopsided trade deals. You want to know who the dividers are today in the GOP? I'll tell you who they are. You see them there. The Bushes, Jeff Flake, Mitt Romney, and other bitter globalists whose time has frankly come and gone. Like the ghosts of Christmas past, they're wandering the halls, making noises, but no one's listening. This is a Trumpian party now, and that's the angle. To discuss, I'm joined by Fox News contributor and former Congressman Jason Chaffetz in Utah, and here in the studio in Washington is attorney Richard Goodstein, who's advised most Democratic presidential candidates going back to 1984, and in New York, Guy Benson, political editor of townhall.com and a Fox News contributor. Great to see all of you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, Laura.
So Richard, you just heard the angle. Right. What do you think? He was going to be this guy who ripped the party apart, divisive, brash, all those things. But to see what happened yesterday with all of these former detractors, and you saw just a smattering of them, what a reversal.
I put this under the heading of with friends like this, who needs enemies? In this regard, thanks to Donald Trump, the party ID split is wildly in favor of Democrats. Thanks to Donald Trump, Republicans lost Alabama. He backed two losers.
Okay, try to focus on the question.
I give the Republicans credit.
I get your wrap on that.
I give Republicans credit for getting this tax bill done. It was not an easy thing to do. They rammed it through. Everything they said, believe me, all the tape that they ran about Obamacare, you could replay now. Okay, but they got it done. It's wildly unpopular. Just like he is, historically so. So, I mean, in the generic ballot, Democrats are way ahead. So, I mean, I think we have to kind of see what's going to happen in the 28 elections. Pretty much every single election that's happened since Donald Trump has won has been plus 20 or so for the Democrats.
Congressman Chaffetz, let's go to you on this. The generic ballot in 2016 was a disaster. In Ohio, it was pretty bad for Trump. Pennsylvania was going to be his Waterloo. Wisconsin, there was no way he was going to win. Of course, he won and surprised all the critics, the pollsters, and so forth. But it struck me yesterday, and especially watching McConnell, Ryan, even that little bit of concession from Corker, I think they've moved toward him more than he has moved toward them.
Yeah, look, America wanted a disruptive president. They didn't like what was happening in Washington, D.C. on either side of the aisle. And if the Democrats' only thing that they can really point to as a highlight for their 2017 is a generic ballot, it was a terrible year for Democrats. They lost big. Hillary Clinton's numbers are even lower. If the race were run again, Donald Trump would win by even bigger numbers. He did help unite the party. After the Republicans did the proverbial political faceplant by blowing it on Obamacare, they finally realized that maybe we ought to come together, and the president did work hard behind the scenes. And the Democrats, what are they going to run on? We think your taxes should be higher. How dare the Republicans cut your taxes? I mean, they've got nothing to run on other than a generic ballot.
Hey, Guy, let's go to you. You were a never-Trumper in your day, and you raised all sorts of red flags about him, his demeanor, and so forth. But watching him over the last year, setting aside the tweet storms and all of that, the Congress blew Obamacare, as Jason said. He comes in, and he is hammering people for results. He's like, when are you going to get me a bill? What are you going to do on this? He is always on the phone with Ryan, McConnell, and a gaggle of other people saying, why cannot you get this stuff done faster? Contrary to what you hear, he is on these details, and he's impatient for change.
And the change came. And I think part of the reason that the party is so united at the moment is this is a massive win, not just for the Republican Party, but for the American people and for long-held conservative goals. This is a tax cut for 80% of Americans. This is a major tax cut for corporations to make our numbers way more competitive in the world. That's something even Obama was for, and then the Democrats all skedaddled because it was Trump championing that idea now. But also in the bill was getting rid of Obamacare's individual mandate. That's a huge deal. Drilling in Anwar, Republicans have been after that for forever. And
right,
they got
Guy,
it all in one bill.
Guy, I don't mean to interrupt, but I look back. I'm looking back because it's this time of year. You look back at the previous year. There were so many conservatives, and there are a few still. George Will, Bill Kristol. He's not a real conservative. If what he did on Anwar, the tax bill, the deregulation, Gorsuch, 12 circuit court judges, if that's not conservative, I don't know what is conservative. I worked for President Reagan. That stuff is pretty conservative, don't you think?
Well, the judges, I think, are probably the absolute highlight of the presidency so far. And one other point, Laura, I think you have to evaluate everything that the administration does action by action. And there's been a lot of good things recently. Today, Nikki Haley's speech, I know you're going to get to it later in the show, that speech standing up for American interests and our ally in Israel before the UN was like a fist pump moment. That was awesome. That was powerful. That was moral courage and clarity. That's a high point ending the year for the Trump administration. So yeah, I'm a Trump skeptical conservative, but I'm not going to sit here and close my eyes to big important victories, and we have several to cheer about.
Richard, let's go to you here on this.
With all due respect to Guy and Jason and you, I think Republicans are whistling past the graveyard. Jason, the generic ballot wasn't the high point for Democrats. It was winning in Alabama. It was winning by historic numbers in Virginia. The voters are speaking. These are people, frankly, who, the ones who were in the streets on January 21st last year, a lot of them didn't vote.
You lost
voted for Bernie Sanders.
Congressional races in a row.
And each one of them, listen, Jason, you know, you've been in Congress. Every single one of them went plus 15 or 20 in the Democrats' direction because they were ruby red districts. So to think that it's just the generic ballot, again, with all due respect, you're kidding yourself. Have they accomplished something? Of course. But does 2018 look like a good year?
Well, I got to say, Roy Moore and Gillespie, I mean, I like Gillespie, but I mean, he's like a guy from New Jersey who came down to Virginia and like tried to be a conservative populist, even though he's a Bush guy. I mean, that just wasn't going to fly. And it's the second time he lost running for office in Virginia. So I don't know if those two states are a great barometer, but you're right. The Democrats are happy they won those. Let's move to what the resistance is planning, all of you, because there was a hilarious piece in the LA Times today. I screamed laughing like at 9 in the morning when I was doing my radio show. The title is "Protesters Stash Bullhorns and Hot Chocolate just in case Trump fires Mueller." All right, Jason, I got to go to you on this. I'm not kidding you. In Washington, Houston, L.A., they have these resistance little mini headquarters, and they're dashing off their signs and their little supplies, their power bars, because they actually think Donald Trump's going to fire Mueller, and they want to be ready for the moment. This is what they live for. This is what they hope for. What is your reaction? I mean, conservatives are just kind of working and like taking care of our families, but they're always ready for a good protest.
Oh, you gotta love liberal preppers. They're getting their hot chocolate. They're running to Office Max to get their markers so they can write out their swear words and get their little beanie caps ready because it's cold outside. But the president has said he's not intending to fire Mueller. The White House spokesperson has said, she was quoted as saying 1,000 times, I've told you, we're not planning to fire Mueller. They're getting all whipped up over this fake news, this fake story, instead of actually working to be productive in this society. That's
Elizabeth Beavers, guys, a Washington, this gal Elizabeth Beavers, who's a Washington-based policy manager for this group, Indivisible. She said, the last thing we want to be caught is unprepared. So you need the hot chocolate, I guess, to be prepared. I mean, Guy, this will be what the president and the Democrats, the president and the Republicans face next year as they move forward, whether it's on, a DACA fix or, a Supreme Court nomination, which might come up in June, or any of the other things that Trump has planned. The resistance will drive them all the way to 2018, and they're going to use that to try to drive turnout, are they not?
Sure, and the professional left is very good at agitprop. They're practiced at it. They'll do it again. I do like this sort of modern-day Minuteman routine they have going on here. We have to have our gloves by the door and some provisions if we have to race out in a stampede into the streets for whatever the next thing's going to be. I thought we were all supposed to be dead already from net neutrality being repealed. But look, I agree. If Trump fires Mueller, that will touch off an enormous protest, not just from the hard left, but I don't think Trump's going to do it. It's not in his interest. It would look terrible. And
he's not gonna
all we do is sit here and talk about is Trump going to fire Mueller over and over again. They say they're not going to do it. The Republicans keep saying don't do it. He shouldn't. Let the guy do his work, and let's move on. And
well, he's not going to do it. This is a fantasy of the Democrats. They're desperate for some piece of news that's good for them. So they're desperate for something like in the middle of the night he does a Saturday Night Massacre on Mueller. Richard, go ahead.
If Trump fires Mueller, the least of his problem will be
the least of his problem will be
how much hot chocolate there is that these people in the streets have. There will be a constitutional crisis of the first order because it will show that we have a president who thinks he's above the law. And incidentally, I will bet put money with you. Well, I put money you, Jason, Guy. I'm on yes on whether he fires Mueller because he's like a stuck pig and he's squealing. And it's not. Pig. Yeah, I'm just saying it's not a pretty picture as the walls are closing. And they are.
That's a nasty way of referring to the president. Stuck pig.
Well, I'm not talking about him, but I'm talking about the people around him are feeling the heat.
Like pigs, though. They're cute.
Feeling the heat. And I think 4 months from now, everybody will be singing a little bit of different tune, whether that's going to happen or not. We'll see.
All right, guys. We'll take a bet. I'll bet $5,000 for charity right now. Good.
You got it.
He's going to fire Mueller. Oh, good. National Right to Life is going to get all that money. Isn't that wonderful? I'm just teasing. Trump is suddenly riding so high, guys, that the Democrats are in total shock. Even Richard, he's not going to say that. But they're setting one big booby trap, desperately trying, of course, to get the president to take the bait. We touched on this, but we have a lot more on it. Stay there.